All right, and we should be live. Hope my audio is working correctly. Always the fun part of recording. Let's double check. We'll do a mic check, and yes, it's still working. All right. So everything should have worked fine as far as what I'm seeing on the streams there in YouTube. Let me just do another double check. All right, cool. So welcome everybody to this wonderful episode of AskSh.ai, as I like to jokingly call it, the AskSh.ai show. This is just a fun podcast where I get the chance to share all the cool stuff I'm working on, things that I'm building, things that I'm privy to within the ecosystem that I can share, because that's really what I do love. Is I have the fortunate opportunity of getting to work, just like work, really getting to live every day and enjoy collaborating and partnering with a lot of the Web3 ecosystem across blockchain, machine learning, and AI. And that's really the goal of the show, is really just share a lot of those stories, share a lot of those learnings, and really share the things I'm experiencing as I go through them in real time. The other goal is also to build a content library. Right? I really believe that it's important that we all have our contributions to society in some way. We can contribute some way. Everybody has their way that they like to contribute. This is my way of giving back and how I like to share my knowledge, and also to create my own content library. I do believe in the long term, I could in some ways clone myself, or at least clone my writings, be able to share my personality out there. I'm building some of those tools. And so I want to be able to create that library. So that's part of this effort, is really to create that content of library and quality of content, hopefully not massive amounts of content as well. So the last episode was July 21st, almost 2 months ago. It's been a very long time. I was fortunate. That's when I was building all this stuff, and my executive co-founder with me as well, Matt Papish, was with me, and I was down by the beach working on Commons Forge and working on building that out. And I did the show from the beach there, and that was a great experience. And the last almost 2 months have been fun, to say the least. I've had my own personal challenges with family. It's just the way life goes, right? There's always things going on with family, and why I believe that family always has to come first. And in a modern company, you're building a modern business, the value of family is really what's important, and really should be at the heart of the company as well. So Commons Forge is very much about that family, and building that family. I'll talk about that in a moment. And myself was really just really deeply involved in family. I posted a little bit about how the stuff I was experiencing and learning sort of my balance and my role within my larger family really made me think about partnerships and what does it mean to be there for people and really be able to be empathetic and listen, and how do you bring that into the business world and be there and listen to somebody's idea, because you really want to help them, right? You're really there to listen to what they're doing. And that, sometimes when you can't help, you just have to listen and you just have to be there, right? And then you find ways to help, or sometimes you just accept that you can't and you tell them you can't help. And that value carries to business as well, right? And when it comes from that personal experience, I think it really holds a lot of value to myself, right? It really means a lot to me to always challenge myself to do better. So I take a lot of learnings I take from life, bring them into the business world. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work the other way around. So I'll certainly talk about that another time. So family is important. That always comes first. After really the family stuff was really building Commons Forge, the wonderful logo here. For those that are not familiar with what Commons Forge is, I try not to make this a pitch. Commons Forge is really about building Web3 focused startups. We build these startups really around machine learning, AI, and blockchain. Those are the three fundamental layers of Web3, right? Blockchain is the data layer, machine learning is the interpretation layer, and AI is the presentation layer. So our products, everything that we build, our startups that come out of those products, are all about really defining the interaction of those layers and building real world products that deliver on those, on the idea or the vision of interaction of what Web3 in the future is. So, I'm really passionate about this space. I spend a lot of time ideating and thinking about what the future of the internet and technology might mean for us as humanity, and how it relates to our personal soul. And that's really what Commons Forge is intended to be. It's a vehicle, it's a machine. I've always referred to that way. The intention is for it to be that machine that creates and builds the future startups of the future, right? The startups that employ our children in 10 to 15 years from now, that create new jobs and opportunities out there. That's really the mission and goal of Commons Forge, right? I know we're going to build awesome products along the way. I also know we're going to make mistakes, and some of our products and our startups may not work. It's just the reality of things, right? As much as you do market fit, as much as you do technical fit, as much as you build an awesome product, sometimes you just can't keep up with innovation. Sometimes a partner, somebody else, right, a competitor, if you will, right, builds a better product. And I think it's important to have that humility and say, hey, we can't do it as well. Let them do it, right? And you step back and that startup fails, or you just pivot, right? You become more of a foundational layer and you contribute that way. For that reason too, right? A lot of the things in Commons Forge pipeline is really about building those foundational layers. And so we have our internal incubation pipeline and there's the external incubation pipeline. I promise this won't be a sales pitch. So I'll do one last promo here and let's see if this works. And so if you want to learn more about Commons Forge, go down to the banner below, commonsforge.com. You can look at the incubation pipeline. You can look at the team that's there. I build very scrappy. I build in the public. It's built in Notion. Part of the reason why it's built in Notion is I want to make it easy for people to copy the layout and the format of the site if it works for you. So please, by all means, right, look at leverage the site if you want to. If you like the layout format, you can use it for yours. But we're very scrappy the way we build things. It's really about getting the product and focusing on that product. So that's the last sort of sales promo from Commons Forge. I promise I will try. If there's any comments or feedback as we're going along here, the show runs about half an hour, 40 minutes or so. So we'll wrap up at about 12:50 or so. I like to leave about 10 minutes at the end for any kind of Q&A that might come in. Anybody that has any questions. I always try to leave my sort of different channels open. So if you do want to connect during the show itself, you can leave a comment on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Twitter. I believe it's also getting streamed there. No, it's not. So you can ping me on Twitter and I'll probably get a notification. Or sorry, X. Whatever. You can see my sarcasm there. Or message me on Slack or whatever, LinkedIn. So if there's any comments, please do jump in and ask. I'm happy to share any thoughts. With that, let me grab a quick sip of water from my giant jug. All right. So one of the cool things I wanted to talk about really is some of the things that we're building in Commons Forge, and sort of why I'm excited about this space. Right, I really enjoy the fact that when we build in Web3, we get a chance to sort of ideate and envision what that future might be like, right? And so I wanted to share some of the discussions I've had this week. Kind of obfuscating as much as I can. Again, I can't share certain things, but I wanted to share some of the sort of topics and things that came through conversations this week, and just kind of share them with the thoughts out there. So one of the particular ones that came up was what is kind of the duality of a digital world and a real world, right? And how do they play against each other? And how does the digital world and the real world compare to each other, right? I believe a lot of the products we're going to build at Commons Forge are going to help define that. They will help us understand what that actually is and what the tools look like, and what our digital human representation could look like, or replicate can look like in the digital world, what our personality, our real world personality might look like in the digital world. So that idea of cloning is not really about cloning. It's really about making the AI behave and look and be very similar to you, right? It's not going to be a one-to-one clone. So if there's this notion of this idea, right, that again, 10 to 15 years from now, right, this is not happening everywhere today, but it is happening today. There are people today that do spend a big portion of their time in a VR world. Look at kids, right? If they're going to school for 8 hours and they come back home and they spend 4 to 5 hours in some sort of VR and digital world, And then the other 2 or 3 hours, they're, at home doing chores, cleaning up, playing, Legos and other stuff with their siblings, maybe. Or in some cases, they're going to bed early, or they have a friend's party to go to. That 4 hours of tech that they might have gotten, right, between VR, between laptops, between phone, between this, is another world. It's another world that these kids are engulfed in. And so they're already living at least half their time in the digital world, right? And why I say half their time is because if we look at kids, my belief is that in their minds, when they think of their time and their time that they can control on their own, that bucket of time is very minimal, right? Because at school, it's teachers and principals telling them what to do. It's at home, it's parents telling what to do. Maybe sometimes the siblings telling them what to do. So there's very little time in the day when they, I think, really feel and control, like, it's really their day and their time, right? So you look at the sort of the digital world that they can go live in, right? When they come home from school and now they can go sit on the computer, they can get into that digital world, even if it's half an hour, right? It's an hour of time that they control. It's an hour of time that they own. They can choose what they do. They can go wherever they want. They can go into one world, and then they don't like that world. 10 seconds later, they can go into another world. They want to go play a card game, and they don't like that kind of card game. They can switch to another card game. So this control that we talk about Web3, right? If you think about the youth, it's really about them controlling their world and the world around them. So they're already in this digital world, right? They're very much living in a duality type of world where there's a digital part of their life and there's a virtual part of their life. That will only shift, right? As technology becomes more and more part of our normal day, and hopefully a lot of it becomes part of the background, right? Not thick glasses that we wear on our face, but holographic projections that are just part of the natural background. Technology will be around us more and more, and we will be naturally more engulfed in that digital world. So when we think about 10 to 15 years from now, and I think about that future world, I think about what does work look like in that future world, right? How do our kids go to work in that world, right? Well, if they want to be, I served falafel at 14, and I worked at the theater at like 15, and I had all these, customer service type jobs. And so, if that's the kind of jobs that they're going to do, or any other kind of jobs too, right? But they want to work at a grocery store, they want to work at the theater, they want to work at a restaurant, they want to work as a barista at a coffee shop. What does that look like, right? What does the future of service work look like? Because I think that's the hardest to say we're going to limit it with technology, right? Because service work, there's a service component to it. There's a customer service side to it. So as hard as you're going to try, technology will never get there. There's a phrase I learned called the uncanny valley, which talks about sort of how uncomfortable it is when digital things are not quite real. So it's very, very true, right? We have to, as humans, we need to be able to portray the digital world almost like we do the real world as well, right? Now, again, talking about the kids in 15 years from now, right? That concept of that digital world and the real world will morph over time, and they'll live in that duality type of world. So that duality world to me is a lot about the barista's example, right? Going out there, serving the cup of coffee, right? The barista goes to the coffee shop, they check in, they put their apron on, they make the coffee, they do their work, right? I can very much see, because we already have automated tellers, we already have self-service checkout counters, that the coffee is going to serve itself in a way, right? You're going to have machines that deliver the coffee. There's already coffee shops that do that in different places. The airport has self-serving coffee machines. So the next part is, okay, well, if we have the technology, and that's what makes the retail experience more efficient, from a cost production, space efficiency, quality levels, right? It's making the retail space more efficient. How are we also kind of giving back that customer experience, right? How are we still keeping that world experience? Because I don't believe that future kids are going to become just stupid or like Wall-E and are going to be okay with just throwing things at me, right? And they'll just accept whatever. There will be a portion of the population that will do that. I don't believe in that dystopian future, right? I don't think that that's going to take over. I hope not, at least. I want to make sure it doesn't. So, if that's the future, right? The digital world is going to be about the kids, but then, right, there'll be teens logging into digital world, being a digital barista, right? Providing customer service in that digital world. And then the coffee gets served in that real world when you arrive to that Starbucks and you pick it up, right? That maybe that interaction that the baristas in the digital world is having is happening with the customer that's driving in a self-driving car, right? So I'm still going to work, right? I'm still going to office. I still need to visit friends, but on my 15-minute drive there, I'm having a virtual conversation with a barista about the type of coffee that I want. Hopefully, it does not take the whole 15 minutes, right? But maybe 5 minutes. And so, what does that experience look like, right? To me, that's the exciting part of bringing that human authenticity to that digital world. I don't believe that all the customer service agents will be replaced by AI, even 10 to 15 years from now, right? I think a lot of people will still want, in a sense, of a human element in different places. Maybe not for ordering their coffee, right? Maybe that's something that at that point we will, the AI interaction will be sufficient and people will be okay with that. But for other things like custom furniture, custom machinery, custom home building, even high-end custom cars, hypercars that are custom built, those kind of worlds are still going to require that human interaction, that human touch. And I don't believe that this world that we're in today will continue forever, right? So the the digital world will sort of play a bigger part in that. So that human touch in that digital world will become even more and more critical over time, right? And I think that's the biggest importance there is, right, blending that digital world together. So let me just check real quick, double check the messages there. Um, I'll get back to more than a second. I just want to see if any messages came in here. That's sorry. So just reading a comment here. Somebody just sent me a message. So that's why I like doing these things in real time. That's why it's fun to pivot on this stuff. All right. So I'll explain the sort of the other types of examples because I think that'll help, right? Which are some of the comments I've seen in general, right? As well as kind of the message or two I saw pop up here. So the the way to think of other examples, right, in a service world, I think is the same thing, right? If you think about um, going to a coffee shop as an example, sorry, not coffee shop, a restaurant as an example, right? You will have people in that restaurant that in some cases the function that they do are being replaced by a machine of some sorts, right? Let's say cleaning the tables, but the waiting staff, the serving staff, I believe for a long time will still require people and will still require the human touch. The question is, how does the digital world and how does technology really make their life easier, right? You already go to a lot of places and you're not ordering from somebody, right? You take a barcode, you take a picture of the QR code and you place your order that way. And so the people then just bring you the items and that's it. At some point in many restaurants, those items are already brought to you by a robot. So I think the question is really in a restaurant scenario, in a bar, in a lounge, right? What value are the humans playing in that world as well, right? How are they adding value on top of that? It's not let's see. I got a notification there from my mic had gone out. Great timing. So the I was talking about the sort of restaurant world, right? And having that duality experience, right? Of ordering things in the restaurant, right? And being facilitated by technology. And mainly how the technology is going to help ensure a more consistent and better customer experience, right? Things like just cleanliness and organization, supplies, all those things can be left at a consistent level. So how do the humans make the environment a better customer service experience, right? the technology is a facilitator in that. The technology is not to take over. That's not the point. Now, there are certainly going to be like 100% robot and AI driven, shops and restaurants and all those things. Certainly. I think it's going to take a long time, right? Probably, I'd say probably 20 to 30 years before that becomes kind of the really commonplace of things. And I don't know if that will become a commonplace, right? I still think there's a need for that human touch and everything. The question is just what role does that human play? I think the bank example actually I went to yesterday is a perfect example. You walk in the bank, the only person that you see in the front is the sort of the engagement person, right? That says, "Hey, welcome. How you doing today? What would you like to do today? How can I help you? Right? What questions do you have?" Right? They're there to make that customer experience great from the very beginning and help you get to where you need to be with the technology, right? Because they also accept that technology is kind of stupid in a way and doesn't know enough about you. So we need that human interaction at the bank, right? I said, "Hey, I want to deposit the check." They said, "Okay, go to the teller. You're going to put the check in the box, and then you're going to talk to the teller on the screen." Right? Or you just deposit check and you can go through the automated process on there. So that to me is kind of that cool process, right? You are given the choice of the customer, the experience that you want. I wanted to talk to the teller because I thought it was cool to do it over the phone and see that experience firsthand. But you see in that case, right, the humans that used to be in the front, one, worried about security, because who knows if they're gonna get shot when something comes in the bank, or somebody wants to steal something. Now you only have to worry about security for one person. You don't have to do it for a whole entire team. There's no cash in the front anyways. So, the banking becomes a much more secure environment, right? The restaurant becomes a much more secure environment. So one, right, employee security gets improved, right? Customer security and safety gets improved. So just things like security and safety and operations become more efficient. That's hugely beneficial. All right, I will move on real quick. I wanted to share some fun stuff I've been working on just to get away from so philosophical for a second, and then certainly happy to come back to it. I will certainly go through some of the questions I've had throughout the week and discussions as well. So one of the fun parts, actually, let me take a quick water break before I jump into that. And a brief free introduction for anybody that's joining. My name is Sh.ai. I am the founder and chief catalyst of Commons Forge, a Web3 venture studio building startups that define blockchain, machine learning, AI, all the layers of Web3. This is the AskSh.ai show, or as I like to call it, the AskSh.ai show, because it is the domain in here at the bottom. And you can visit the commonsforge.com domain as well. And we're about 30 minutes, 25 minutes or so into the show. The show runs for about another 25 minutes or so, till about the 50-minute mark, and then I try to leave about 2 minutes for open questions if there are any. If not, I continue to share my thoughts. The show is live on LinkedIn and YouTube. It's simulcasted around the world like it's 1985. And you can watch it on those. It's also DVR'd. You can watch it later. Thank you for anybody that is watching. Thank you to the people that send in their questions and comments beforehand. And also, if you do leave a comment throughout the show, thank you for doing that as well. Yeah, the last show was July 21st, so I've been excited building stuff, right? I've been building Commons Forge with my team, and it's been so awesome to get to build a company from the ground up and really thinking about what does a Web3 company mean? What does a future technology company look like? What does a future actually a company driven by technology look like, right? Where technology is at the core, and really the layers of Web3, right? Machine learning, AI, and blockchain are the core of everything that we do, right? It's core of our ethos, and we follow those beliefs. And so I'm excited to share our roadmap. Let's see if I can do this correctly. I did post this on LinkedIn. I'll go ahead and add it to, it'll be on the website as well. But you can see we have really ambitious plans. We're really excited. We technically launched in Q3, just around July, August timeframe or so. We've gone through all our foundational we've gone through all our foundational work. We've laid all those things down. That's kind of our genesis, our establishment there. And really now we're working on that foundational layer, right? We've got the team, we're working on seed funding and all the cool stuff that we're doing. So I'm really excited to keep working on our project, but I'm really excited to keep building Commons Forge. I'm super excited at all the technology that we're really focused on, the technology that we're building. and the way that we're working with the community and the ecosystem at large, and the depth that we're looking at every single piece of our business as we're building it, but as well as the speed that we're moving at is really awesome too. So that's really exciting, right? Is being able to move, I would say efficiently, not quickly. It's not the point is not to move quickly, it's to move very efficiently. You know, when I say efficiently, what makes it efficient? Well, I'll show a simple example. When you think of, you know, background audio, you think of creating content and stuff like that. Oops. You think of, you know, developing material. Sometimes you need just short animations, right? You need some short background images. You need some content. You need some visuals to go with it. You can see how the image here in the back is inspired by the logo, right? Well, how did I create the logo? I used AI tools, right? I used Midjourney, I used Stable Diffusion, I used a couple of other tools, making sure I had commercial licenses to what I was using, right? I didn't take the very first version, I amalgamated different versions of it and reiterated over time, right? And that's the logo for now. Might it change over time? Possibly, right? I can foresee that. But it allowed us to move very quickly, right? And very quickly deliver this mission of, or sorry, this vision of Columns Forge, right? And so from that, I was able to go and create more imagery, right? Very cool things like this 3D background that I have here that I built for one of our decks that we needed, and video material that we had as well. There's a whole bunch of other examples I want to share as well. You know, envisioning what the future of, you know, Commons Forge headquarters look like, right? Very much getting the imagery and the culture out of what Commons Forge is about. It helps to do it via images, right? It helps to do it via imagery. But when you can add a little bit of motion, even though that it's, you know, a little bit of blur, a little bit of fire going along there, a little bit of something like that, right? Using tools like Gen 2, their ML runway models to be able to do stuff like this is really empowering. As an example, right, when talking to our marketing partners, right, about what is our branding, what does our strategy look like, what do we envision things in the future, I don't have to have all of those discussions, because what I'm able to say is here's you know 10 pictures, here's some videos, this is what I foresee as the headquarters, right, the digital future of our company, right, and very quickly they already understand that branding, they already understand that messaging, they already understand the culture that I'm trying to create from that, right? Because pictures do really serve 1,000 words or represent 1,000 words, whatever the phrase is. And, you know, adding a little bit of motion to that has a huge amount of value. So as a builder, as an entrepreneur, starting a business and a startup and building a startup, Commons Forge, that builds other startups, it's all about being efficient. It's all about finding those opportunities for efficiencies, right? And if you can reduce the amount of time that you spend communicating your branding, your messaging, your colors, your this, your that, and you're able to scale that out because you can record a video and share that out with anybody that wants it and share it out securely through tools like Loom as an example, or communicate with those partners through Slack as another example, right? Those tools are hugely empowering, right? It enables you to move so much, again, not faster, just more efficient, right? You're focusing on the right things. You're not wasting time on things that don't add value, right? That are not, sorry, that add value, but take a lot of effort to get to that value, right? The idea is to reduce that effort it takes to get to that value, right? More value for less work, right? More efficient work, not just less work, but more efficient work for more value. So 2 examples there. The other times, you know, I wanted to have, you know, a little bit of fun, and I wanted to, you know, really think through what the pitch for Commons Forge would look like, right? I had written it so many times, I had presented it in so many different ways, you know, and part of the portfolio products that I'm building with the team are about protecting people's identities. And I wanted to see, you know, if I put my shoes, if I put myself in the shoes of one of our customers of the products we're building, what are some of the challenges that we see today? Well, one of those challenges is really around like human IP, right? Who we are as people and people in the digital world. The simplest way to think about it is if you think about actors, you think about martial artists, you think about sports players and athletes, you think about any kind of famous people or politicians.
they all have an identity to protect, right? Like who they are on the outside. And it's not just about the face, right? It's not just about like you capture their face and now you know that that's their face, right? It's really about their movement. It's about who they are. So who they are is comprised of many different things, right? There's the essence, right? Their soul, their beliefs, their ideologies. There's their ethics, the way that they work, the things that they do, right? And then there's the person, right? The outer perspective of who they are, right? The language that they use when they talk, the words, the patterns that they use, right? The tonal differences in their speech, right? All these little nuances make up really who we are, and we still don't understand most of them. So, again, I'm not a full-time psychologist. I just spent time studying that, but there's psychologists that are dedicated to this idea of really understanding who we are, and I think that it's still a long ways to go, right? And I look at how do we build the tools to help accelerate that? How do we build tools to do that? So the interview machine is one of those. The human digital registry that I'm building with Matt Papich and the rest of the team is another one, right? The whole idea about how do we capture us on the outside to me is really fascinating because it really enables us to better capture who we are, and then in that digital world we can represent us more accurately, right? It's really about the movements, the way we move in a space, right? So when we talk about let's say actors or athletes as an example, right? And all the mess and hoopla that's going on Hollywood right now with the writer strikes and all that stuff, right? It's important, right? It's not about, it's about valuing people and valuing their work, right? People are rightfully annoyed and pissed off because their work is being taken from them without their knowledge, right? So either A, you have writing work that's being amalgamated and created into new work that is very clearly based on existing work, right? There should be at least some sort of credit given there. I'm not a lawyer. It's not the intent of the show to talk about you know the way regulation should be. I'm happy to share my perspectives, but the 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 actors and athletes that, or sorry, the writers that own this content, that created the content, right? They should get at least attribution. I believe that they should also be able to decide how their work is being used, right? If they want to, at an individual level, allow for royalties and reuse, they should be able to monetize that, control that, and dictate how that needs to be, right? Now, the tools still need to be there for everybody to be able to do that easily. Those are digital rights management tools, and they're coming. But the same thing applies to the movement of a human, right? The way that an athlete moves. You think about like American football and the end zone dance, right? Um, there's some players that they patent and trademark that dance, right? And they profit off that. And they own that move, and it's very unique to their brand. You have other athletes. The wrestling world is a great example, where athletes have certain characteristics and facial expressions that they make, or hand gestures that they make, and that's their unique move. It's something that is unique to them. And I have dolls from my youth that are still in those poses, right? And I still have those dolls. And when I sell that doll, it's worth some money. The actor has no idea. The wrestler of those days has no idea that I sold that toy. And to me, that's the part that's wrong, right? As a creator, I really think that you should be able to know and understand where your work is being used. When you know and understand where it's being used, you can then decide how you want to monetize it, right? I think that's the right approach. So those are the tools that we're building. As part of the sort of, again, putting myself in the shoes of one of our customers, I wanted to see what it was like to
machine learning.
uh,
Colors the next hit.
not yet, Messi. I didn't cue you yet. Sorry, I got too excited there. So as part of my, putting myself in the shoes there, the idea was, what would it be like if I wanted to have a casting call for Commons Forge, right? What would it be like if I needed to get an idea of what does the Commons Forge messaging sound like in the tone of somebody else? If I could actually afford somebody like Messi or Keanu Reeves or any other actor, what would that sound like? And so I wanted to share some of these um, very briefly
Our
here.
seasoned team, powered by a passionate belief in the transformative potential of blockchain technology, is dedicated to turning cutting-edge Web3 concepts into tangible realities. We're committed to shaping the internet's future, one innovation idea at a time. At Commons Forge, we specialize in taking early
So
AI
then,
and machine learning
then I can put, Messi on a horse and see what that would look like if it was a more Western scene.
pillars of the next internet. Our seasoned team, powered by a passionate belief in the transformative.
And then, I said, okay, what would it look like if Keanu Reeves was on there? Because I'm a Keanu fan from all the movies that he's done. I think they're really awesome. I think his acting is bar none. I will happily go on record saying that I love, I think, almost every movie he's done that I've watched. I probably missed some in the way, but I'm a huge Keanu fan. So with a lot of respect to Keanu, I'm sharing this just because I respect him a
Forge,
lot.
we specialize in taking early stage ideas and transforming them into viable MVPs.
Okay, that is not Keanu, for clarity, right? That is very much a clone I made in DID. All of these are clones, right? That's the intention, right? Now, I call them clones because that's what clones are to me right now, right? Clones are these stupid things, right? They don't mimic who the real people are. And we kind of need to get away from that sci-fi world, I think, where we assume that a clone is a one-to-one representation. I get that's scientific representation. I get it, right? But this is what we're calling clones today, right? And they're not clones, right? They're avatars of digital replications, right? It's clearly not Keanu, right? Maybe if you're not paying attention and you're passing by and you kind of hear something here and there, you're like, what? Who was that? Keanu talking about something? But it's not Keanu, right? And it's not Messi. Keanu was never in a subway. Messi was never on the beach or on a horse, right? But that's the power that this kind of tooling creates, right? As a creative person, I
Our
can
seasoned
choose to
team,
have
powered by
Keanu in different locations, right? I have that ability as a creator to choose that and play around with that. And the right thing to do is, one, let these actors know that I'm using their content, right? I don't like this idea. You can see I'm hesitant to share even the full clips because, privately, if it's for my own use, fine, right? I still think that they should know about it. But publicly, I don't want to give any kind of representation, right? That in any way Keanu or Messi are know what I'm doing here, nor that they support what I'm doing either. They have no idea. Again, that's where I think it's wrong. So I wanted to kind of show as an example there, right? Where the technology needs to improve, and we're building that in Commons Forge between the registry and the machine, right? To help us as humans be able to protect who we actually are, right? The way that we move, our voice, our characteristics, our personality, right? And what excites me is that we're not at it alone, right? We're not trying to solve every piece of this puzzle by ourselves. There's a lot of partners that have already solved things like voice and being able to do voice watermarking, being able to do text watermarking as well. Now, again, I'm using watermarking as a loose term. In the language model world, you're basically just saying that this piece of text, we can stamp it in a way that we know in the future, right? That stamp is still to yet be defined and proven and all that stuff, and there's still ways to get around that stamp. So, right, that's the idea. So that watermarking is there, and we are in good company when it comes to building a lot of this technology, right? To bring a lot of these pieces together, to be able to tell somebody that, hey, you know what, if you did capture yourself via phone, via some other technology, and you are going to put that lifelike representation of yourself out there, you can have a traceability record of where that went. You can have some insight as to where that's going as well. So I think that's really the hugely empowering piece there, right? Is being able to have that technology help us secure who we are. So I'll pause there for a moment. I'll just double check for any questions that came in, and then we'll go from there. Let's see, come in. All right, so I wanted to sing as to there's no questions. I will take the next maybe about 5 or 6 minutes to kind of wrap up with one of my sort of thoughts here around, you know, superpowers and that how Web3 actually enables us as humans, right? When we think about blockchain, we think about the technology itself. If you think about a lot of the stuff that we talked about, right? The idea is that the technology really allows us to distribute the ownership of our time, right? So if I can create a somewhat lifelike version of myself, right? Or I'm sorry, but let's say an actor, right? An actor can create a somewhat lifelike version of themselves, and that version is able to be used in thousands of casting calls around the world, right? And they know about it, but they don't need to be part of it. And just based on that, they're narrowed down and they get the roles that they get. Let's assume that they're happy with those roles and the filtration process works correctly, right? What are they actually getting back, right? They're getting back time, right? So to me, this distribution of ownership of our time is really what's valuable, right? How in the new era of the world, how do we leverage technology to give us more time, right? More time to do more things, to be more efficient, to take on new challenges, and to find new ways to be efficient in those challenges as well. So to me, that's what I'm really excited about, right? I always think about a use case that I particularly love is, how I share my knowledge externally, right? I host this show, I want to do more of them. I'm going to be at different webinars and podcasts and, internal content and stuff like that. But I'm always fascinated with the idea, but I'm the one really choosing that path there, right? I'm choosing the content and the places that I want to be. And by nature, that means that some people are locked out of that, right? They're locked out of that experience of getting to meet or engage that person, right? You think about it, it's really about breaking the exclusivity model, right? The idea is, how do you allow access to people, right, or knowledge or resources? But in this case, I'm specifically saying to people like myself, as a presenter, as a thought leader, a global technology humanitarian, somebody that's an actor, somebody that's a global speaker, a politician, right? How do you get more access to those people, right? To me, that's what the technology really enables, right? You can kind of hear it as I've been talking today about, having chatbots that have human-like interaction that can really ask you a lot of questions and really probe what you're trying to find out from that person, right? If the chatbot can better understand you, what you do, then when you're able to get to that person and have that meeting, you maybe don't need half an hour. You maybe only need 15 minutes, because in that 15 minutes, you can get the same amount of information that you could get before, because you're able to be more efficient with your time. So to me, that's what really that excitement enables, right? Is how we can, for lack of a word, kind of tokenize our time, right, and allow other people to participate in ownership of that time. To me, a simple example of that is, I am available, let's say, to present, a hypothetical example, 2 hours a month, I'm able to present, right? I don't believe, right, that the highest bidder should get access to those 2 hours. I believe that there should be an equitable way to distribute those 2 hours, right? To allow the community to decide how those 2 hours are spent, right? The community might be the people that follow me, they may be the people that follow an actor, maybe people follow them, right? That the community really gets to dictate how that person spends their time, right? I think that's an interesting concept that I'm really excited to explore. I have some research I'm eager to get into in that stage and really dig into what does that mean, right? All these things really define who we are as a digital society, right? You can kind of see this is really my passion, is really defining the arc of getting from the real world that we're in today and the real human societies to getting to that future of societies and really the future digital worlds that we're going to live in. And what is the path to get there? And how do we make it the way that we want, right? How do we bring the human aspects into that world 5 to 10 years from now? How do we do that, right? I think we need to build the tools. I think we need to build the technology. I think we need to be out there talking, creating content about it. So that's what the show is about. The show is really about creating that content, creating that material, right? Inspiring other people. So please do share your feedback. There's a link in the description of the show to submit your questions, submit your feedback, share your thoughts on the show. Please do connect over LinkedIn, over YouTube. Subscribe at the connections below. You can see my Twitter down there. LinkedIn, I tend to hang on LinkedIn more than I do on X, whatever. I hang out LinkedIn most of the time. If you want to watch videos of like, these drones flying around, or maybe something with this 3D printer printing something, you'll find that on the YouTube channel. Subscribe there. Thank you. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for participating. Thank you for coming to the content and coming to the show. I'm excited to get back in front of the mic and share all the cool stuff that I'm working on and building with the team and also the Commons Forge. Thank you for coming. Take care, everybody. Love you all.